striking us off is number 10, Fantasia.
Now, Fantasia, a lot of people like,
I did like The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
and I'm really a big fan of Night on Bald Mountain. In fact, it is notable to say that Night on Bald Mountain and later short called Donald's Halloween had the same director.
Yeah, I will say, the rest of the movie, for me, I slept through.
I do understand the dinosaur part and the ancient Roman part are very hard to get through for people who aren't obsessed with the soundtrack. A little too meandering.
Yeah, and just Fantasia in general, like he said, there are a bunch of stories that are just forgettable, that you don't remember as much as like the one of the other ones.
Which is kind of a variety show like this that can be the case.
Just made me sleepy.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you.
Number 9 on this list,
Is A Whale of a Tale.
Pinocchio.
But Pinocchio does have a lot of strikes against it as far as it didn't seem like the plot was very... It didn't seem like it flowed as well as other movies.
Don't get me wrong. The music in this, though. The
Yes.
music in this is fantastic.
And-
I think this is where, like, one of the beginning movies where the music just starts composing to not Fantasia levels where you just fall asleep, but just good levels to where it's like, alright, this is memorable, and I'm just listening to this
movies
over and
like
over and over again.
When You Wish Upon a Star or Little Wooden Head. And then, but it has one of those things where the side villain was actually better than the main villain.
And
When you look at the Coachman, he was a way more scary, like, presence than, like, Monstro.
this is a strange story.
Yeah, and we're the Fox.
It's just the weirdest movie that's ever been shown on television.
Yeah,
Like, you cannot comprehend what's happening, like,
I...
two-thirds
again, I
into
don't-
the movie.
I don't have anything against Pinocchio, but if I'm going to rank this list, this is where we have to put it.
The whole Fox thing, the whole, like, gazpacho thing with Jiminy Cricket.
The whole...
I did like Jiminy Cricket, but it's like, at the same time, at the end, when they have to fight against the fact that boys become,
donkeys.
yes.
Uh,
In fact,
yeah.
we might become donkeys soon. That's what I'm scared of. I cannot
don't
get
know.
my
This-
head around
this
this
mo-
movie.
this movie-
I have a big head, so I cannot get around it.
But out of all the Disney wartime era and golden era, I think, yeah, I'm going to put this at number 9, and there is a good reason.
And there's a good reason why it should stay there. Number 8 is just the best. Well, not the best, but just a great, honestly, one of the movies in here that I can talk a lot of good about. A lot of good. Because just the Johnny Appleseed thing, the little two, just the stories in this make me want to dance, and it's just so compelling.
Melody Time, especially like the Pecos Bill part, and it's extremely set in its own time, but that's not a negative. It's just the way it is, how it is a very 40s era movie. If you do watch a lot of classic movies, you see a lot of things from other movies in it, and especially when you watch like the whole Western genre from back then.
I feel like the stories have so much meaning into them, even though they're like quite small.
Little movies can equal, because it's not a golden age movie. They would do it again with like Winnie the Pooh, and and that's the most famous one I can think of, that they used variety shorts to actually do an overarching movie instead of a feature film. And in this, unlike Fantasia, it worked very well.
Yeah, just made memories come back more and more once we actually started talking about it, and I'm just remembering all the good moments I've had with it.
Oh, I seen every little thing when I seen an elephant fly.
Number 7 is Dumbo. Now, Dumbo is... I actually really liked Dumbo, but there are reasons why it's number 7. And
First half of this movie, amazing.
But, like, the song Casey Jr. had some, and with the train scene, The Baby Mine. Those were classic songs that I don't think you'll ever replace in any Disney soundtrack.
And just the whole half of the movie is just them being drunk on soap.
It was alcohol.
Yeah, drunk on alcohol.
That was another scene that was extremely sudden.
And I'm not saying anything bad about the first half, because the first half,
the
the last half was them being drunk. Number 6 on this list is The Reluctant Dragon.
And Reluctant Dragon had some great scenes in it.
It did.
And it kind of threw the perception. I think it was one of the first movies of Disney's that really threw off perception, which they
And really showed how to really do an animation through every single aspect of it.
Yeah, and I don't think they would have, without Reluctant Dragon, I don't think you would have had a Pete's Dragon later, and you wouldn't have had a lot of the Mickey shorts.
In fact, they made the mouse from Dumbo, like, in this movie, if you really pay attention to it.
The dragon having an interest outside of fighting, and the little boy trying to figure that out, is a great perspective. I love this movie, and
I will say there is a little bit of reason this in this area is because it's kind of cheating a little bit, because most of it is live action.
Yeah, this is supposed to be an animated list, and that does throw it off a little bit.
But it is a good, like, live action movie to show the animation and everything
and
going through.
And while other movies won't probably be on the list for other reasons, I don't see us really reviewing Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Maybe in another list,
yeah, but
somewhere in the future.
As an animated list, that's still more of a live action movie, where this is still more of an animated movie.
Number 5 on this list,
The Three Caballeros.
I danced my butt off after this whole movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even really call it a movie, but, like...
Honestly, this is the whole reason why I watched DuckTales Reboot. Is The Three Caballeros. If you're watching this, it has some great songs, it has some memorable moments, the characters are great for...
Donald Duck, the other bird who had a cigar, the red bird, crazy bird, just...
see where they were in history at that point. But even that, it still has a great aspect to this movie.
And them showing around Mexico and everything, just...
Yeah.
And just learning about Mexico in general. You wouldn't think Disney would have that, like, in the beginning of its era.
Yeah, and it was showing you that it was building even then, even before Disney World.
And giving kids education about Mexico. That's pretty cool.
And Brazil. And other places around the world. So, I mean, where, honestly, it was harder to see back then.
Number 4, Saludos Amigos.
Greetings, friends.
This one was the first, this was the first iteration of, Three Caballeros, and I think it was a little better because not only did it have Pablo, and it also had Goofy.
Yeah.
This is better. But anyway, the point is that it does have some great scenes, and Walt Disney did narrate this movie.
And again, very intricate on every part of Mexico.
And not only that, but also Chile.
And they really get into
And Bolivia?
like the art of Mexico, and how everything
Bolivia
they draw
Chile,
and dance to.
And there was some great scenes in their time period, and I think this was made in 1942, but still it has a lot of that old school animation that is in Technicolor, but is transferring over. The live action stuff, you can tell, is a little choppy, but it's because it's new technology for that time. And no,
This is pretty good for the animation is still pretty good for like what it was beforehand. Mr. Ichabod and Mr. Toad. I got Toad, you got Ichabod.
right, and there's a reason for that. Is because we tend to view it the other differently.
Yes, we do. Mr. Toad. Well, actually, let's go with Ichabod first. Even though, weirdly enough, the name should be switched because that's how the stories are.
Yeah. Now, see, I always liked Ichabod. I thought the Headless Horseman was one of the best early villains.
Great song. Great song.
Yeah, great song.
I'll admit that.
Even though I do believe that it's more of a holiday special than any other. Yeah, it's very much a Halloween special, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. This movie does have an autumn feel to it, even in Mr. Toad, but I think the characters of Ichabod Crane were very much New England, very much like old colonial times, and kind of shows that in its animation and in its delivery.
I will say, in Ichabod, it did have a very Bugs Bunny feel to some of the things that happen in this.
The very over dramatic scenes, yes.
Yeah, and it just shows how perfect Ichabod is, and then there's this guy who hates how perfect he is. That part I love. The only problem I have with it is it kind of ends abruptly.
Moving on to Mr. Toad.
Mr. Toad, I have massive respect for. He is a sweet guy, and he gets abrupted by trial and gets confounded into a jail cell from 2 detectives who try to bust him out of there because he is not supposed to be there from the start, because they know he's innocent, but also they know he's guilty from the president.
Mr. Toad, I like the concept of the show. There's things I don't remember about this one. It just has that. I remember Ichabod from scene to scene, but the Mr. Toad one tends to be a little bit more.
I'll say I think the 2 detectives kind of gave inspiration to detectives, the Great Mouse Detectives,
and maybe even the Rescuers.
Yeah, I feel like they got a lot of inspiration from the detectives in this movie, and Mr. Toad was just a great person all throughout.
The main character is, but there are a few key scenes that carry this movie.
Number 2,
Bambi. It's also the winter scene. It's also the spring, how it goes through the entire year, and it does have some great characters like Flower and Thumper that I think are pretty much even remembered now.
I will say, besides the characters' names and the mother's death, I think I enjoyed this movie. I think it is very okay for me, but I just feel like I forget a lot of things from this movie. I feel like this movie was so even after a watch, I'm forgetting every single plot point that happens besides mother dying and the names.
I think that's pretty common with Bambi. I remember the song. The main song was called Pitter Patter on Little Flowers, and The Great King of the Forest. the wise old owl, who I think inspired the owl character from Winnie the Pooh later. Of course, you have Feline. There was a lot of things that were in Lion King that were derived from this movie.
You see, he's naming a lot of things that I don't even remember.
To see this to remember that I think this was the first movie they did in watercolor and moving away from oils is amazing when you
I
see
think
that.
I do remember the movie being very pretty because of how
It's
the
almost-
paint is.
Yeah, it's almost like serene.
Before we get to our number one spot, we are going to name our honorable mention.
Fun and fancy free.
We have to put Fun and Fancy Free as an honorable mention because, again, it's not really a animated movie. It's more of a live action movie with an animated part. While Mickey and the Beanstalk is a great short
and very quotable and memeable.
but the Mickey and the Beanstalk really isn't a Fun and Fancy Free part. It's just added on. There's other things you can watch Fun and Fancy Free or Mickey and the Beanstalk on. It's not just exclusive.
Yeah, I
to
think
this
there
movie.
was like a Mickey House of Mouse episode with that.
Yeah.
And again,
And
it's
there's
very
also like,
memeable.
collections, and so I mean you don't have
The
to.
mayonnaise.
Other than that, it's just a variety show. And again, I've been saying this a lot, but this movie is in the 40s and it is very set in its time. And the variety shows may not go over well as they did once did.
And then, number one movie of the Golden Renaissance. Well, the Golden Era. Just the best movie of this era. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. Hi-ho, 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 hi-ho.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is number one, and it is the first movie they ever made. And I can't really debate this as far as the placement. We went over this several times, and it kept coming up as number one.
It's beautiful. The music, the art, the way the animation is.
Even if you go look up at the original castle in Segovia, Spain, there where it's set is like out of the storybooks. Even to the weird sparkly effect in the diamond mine, and then you look at the music
And then the water when Snow White goes over the wishing well.
yeah, and
Singing I'm wishing, just like, so good.
and honestly, probably one of the best villains. I mean,
And I'll be extremely honest here. I voted this high. I did. Like, this one holds true to my heart. And it is a princess movie that they started with, and which makes sense with how many princesses that Walt Disney went on with.
and I don't think there's a song in this I can't, like, that doesn't get stuck in my head. From I'm Wishing to the Evil Witch had a very memorable scene, and one of the most gruesome ends in Disney history.
Yeah.
It was all put together wonderfully, and that's as much as we can say.
And it is also very gruesome, too. Like, if you remember the prisoner that was just randomly there and got killed?
Yeah, the huntsman. And so
It's so good. All of it.
So, I think that's as much as a list as we can go for. And
Trust me, there's videos that are going to be longer than this for, like, the next eras.
but this one is going to be a little shorter because
This was made during, like, a wartime, so we can't...
yeah.
it
So
wasn't
there
much to go
was
off of.
there was a lot of cuts into this Disney schedule. I mean, I think what was it? It was Snow White and then Pinocchio came out like 5 years apart, 3 or 4 years apart. Anyway.
Yeah, but then it ended up to being what Disney is known for today.
I had to think they had a strong start.
All of what Disney did just to get to the point where it's at, which huge corporation owning basically everything just gives everyone a special place in their heart for Disney, even though some people are like, eh.
Well,
And that's fine,
everyone
but-
has their own opinion on things,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
On
But
Disney, but you know what? I even believe that even with those people, there's a little space for Disney in their hearts.
and we would like you to comment your favorite era, and
Yes, please.
and
We would love to know, honestly.
if you have another idea for a list or anything you want us to talk about,
We would love to hear it.
put it in the comments.
So make sure to subscribe, like on the video, and hope you all have a lovely day. Take care, AlcheMedians. See you next time.